It was the summer of 1994, the kind of golden July where the air feels endless and every sound in the forest seems alive. In the small Washington town of Evergreen Falls, three teenagers, Evan Mitchell 17, Lily Carter 6, Steve, and Derek Halls away teen dive, packed up a borrowed tent, an old cooler, and a VHS camcorder for what was supposed to be a simple weekend camping trip near Silver Creek. The area was known for its glassy lakes and thick pine forests, a quiet place where cell service didn't exist, and the nearest ranger station was miles away. Locals said the woods had a strange hush to them at night, but for the three friends, that just made it feel like a real adventure. The group left Friday afternoon, their parents expecting them back by Sunday evening. They parked Evon's old Ford Bronco at the trailhead, left a small note on the dash with the words, "Silver Creek Loop," and vanished into the trees. They never made another call, never sent a postcard, never came home. When Monday rolled around and none of them showed up for school or work, their families grew uneasy. By Tuesday morning, search parties were organized, helicopters flew low over the forest canopy, and police dogs traced their scent, only for it to stop dead at the edge of a shallow creek, as if the trail just ended there. When investigators reached the campsite, it looked wrong. Their tent was still standing, half-zipped, with 3 sleeping bags neatly rolled inside. A small fire pit sat cold, surrounded by half-burned logs. Lily's jacket hung from a branch, dry despite the morning dew. Their food was untouched, cooler unopened. The only things missing were their car keys, shoes, and camcorder. No signs of struggle, no drag marks. Just silence, and the faint smell of smoke that shouldn't have been there, not after 2 days of rain. Deputies described the site as frozen in time, like someone had pressed pause in the middle of a moment that never finished. Nearly a month after the teens disappeared, the official search was beginning to fade. Reporters stopped showing up, volunteers stopped signing in, and the forest, soaked with late, summer rain, seemed to have swallowed every trace of the missing campers. That's when Ranger Carl Dempsey, a veteran who had spent 20 years patrolling Silver Creek, stumbled on something the investigation had somehow missed. It was early morning when he noticed a dark shape caught in the roots of a fallen cedar, just off the main trail. A mud-caked hiking boot, size 10, lodged like it had been shoved there. When he pried it loose, he saw initials burned faintly into the heel, D.H., Derek Hall. The laces were torn clean off, and the sole was split, as if someone had run miles through sharp rock or wire. Just above the boot, carved into the smooth bark of the cedar, were 5 words that stopped Carl in his tracks. "It wasn't supposed to follow us." The letters were rough, shaky, the kind of writing you do when your hands won't stop trembling. He radioed the find in immediately, and within hours, detectives and forensic techs surrounded the site. They photographed every inch of the tree, bagged the boot, and swept the area for footprints. But there were none. No tire marks, no cigarette butts, not even animal prints. It was as if the forest had been still for weeks. The rain should have washed the carving smooth, but it hadn't. Somehow, the words looked fresh, like they'd been cut just hours before Carl arrived. Investigators were split. Some believed it was a message from Derek, scrawled before the trio vanished completely. Others thought it was a cruel prank, maybe a copycat trying to stir attention back to the case. But Evan's father, David Mitchell, insisted the writing was his son's, the same way he used to carve his name into fence posts back home. He told police that Evan had mentioned something strange the night before he left, that they'd seen something near their campsite on an earlier hike, and planned to check it out this time. Authorities didn't take him seriously. They ruled the words meaningless, the boot unrelated, and quietly shelved the file. But for those who had been in that forest, the feeling that something unseen had been there, watching, waiting, never really went away. 2 years passed. By 1996, the case of the missing campers had drifted into rumor, the kind of local legend people whisper about at diners when the coffee's gone cold. But then, out of nowhere, something resurfaced. A fisherman named Harold Boone came forward claiming he'd found a camcorder half buried in the river mud near Silver Creek. It was an old Panasonic VHS model, the kind that ran on AA batteries and recorded grainy home videos. Its plastic casing was cracked, the lens clouded with silt, and a faint smell of decay clung to the strap. Harold said he almost threw it out, but when he popped the battery cover open, he noticed something strange. A faint red smear on the grip, like dried paint. Except it wasn't paint. He turned the camcorder over to the local sheriff's department, who announced that the tape inside was blank, nothing but static and water damage. They logged it as non-evidence and locked it away. But word spread fast in the small town. A deputy named Mark Reynolds, who was part of the recovery, later told his brother that when they first played it, there was something on the screen, brief flashes of trees, flickering firelight, and what looked like a person's shadow darting across the lens. The next day, that same deputy quit his job without warning. His resignation letter simply read, "I can't sleep after what I saw." None of it made the news. The official report stayed the same. No footage recovered. Locals began to wonder if the authorities had buried the truth, maybe to protect the families or maybe to protect themselves. For weeks after, residents near Silver Creek swore they saw strange lights at night deep in the forest, faint glows moving between the trees as if someone were still filming out there. A few hikers claimed they heard voices. 3, to be exact, calling faintly from the direction of the old campsite, but when search teams went in, they found nothing. Not a sound, not a footprint. The forest was silent again, and somewhere, locked in an evidence box, that broken camcorder sat collecting dust, waiting for someone brave enough to press play again. By 2006, the Silver Creek disappearance had become more campfire tale than cold case. New rangers barely remembered the teens' names, and the forest had grown over most of the old trails. But that summer, a married couple from Oregon, Jacob and Melissa Klein, both experienced hikers, decided to take a detour off the marked route while exploring the Cascades. The map they used was outdated, showing faint lines that no longer existed, but curiosity got the better of them. After hours of climbing through brush and crossing streams, they stumbled upon something that shouldn't have been there: a rusted metal roof, half buried under ivy and moss. At first, they thought it was just an old shed or hunting post, until they brushed away the vines and saw the rotted frame of a small wooden cabin. The door was sealed shut with thick planks nailed from the outside. Melissa, thinking it might have been used for trapping or storage, pried one loose with a hiking tool. When they pushed the door open, the smell hit them first: damp wood, stale air, and something else, something old. Inside, the cabin looked frozen in time. There were 3 sleeping bags laid out side by side on the dirt floor, a rusted lantern hanging crooked from the beam above, and 3 backpacks stacked neatly near a corner. Dust covered everything, yet nothing seemed disturbed: no animal nests, no claw marks, no sign of entry for years. On a small wooden table sat a photograph in a cracked frame. Evan, Lily, and Derek, smiling around a campfire, their faces blurred slightly as if the photo had warped with heat. Jacob took a few pictures with his phone, thinking it was some kind of elaborate memorial, or maybe a ranger's prank. But then Melissa noticed something that made her stomach twist. The inside of the door they just opened had deep scratch marks, long and uneven, like someone had clawed at it from within. There were no windows, no second exit. The pair exchanged a look, then stepped back outside to catch their breath. That's when Jacob realized the boards they'd pulled off weren't nailed into the frame. They'd been nailed across it. The entire cabin had been sealed shut from the outside, and whatever, or whoever, was inside hadn't left by choice. Without a word, they backed away from the clearing, the forest around them growing so silent they could hear their own heartbeat. When investigators arrived at the site discovered by Jacob and Melissa Klein, they treated it like a historical artifact, not an active crime scene. The cabin had been there for decades, maybe since the 1950s, and the odds of it being linked to the missing campers seemed remote. But as forensic teams combed through the dirt floor, one deputy noticed something metallic glinting beneath one of the sleeping bags. He brushed away the dust, and there it was: a second camcorder, water, stained and battered, but still intact enough to recognize the same Panasonic model the teens had taken with them in 1994. The serial number even matched the one log from the missing persons report 12 years earlier. The deputy called it in, his voice trembling slightly, and for the first time in over a decade, the Silver Creek case was officially reopened. The camera was sent to the State Forensics Lab in Olympia, where technicians carefully pried open the cassette bay. Inside was a damp, warped VHS tape with the label, "Trip Footage, July '94, written in faded blue marker. They dried it for days in a humidity chamber before attempting playback. The footage that emerged was fuzzy, glitching every few seconds, but what they saw was unmistakable. The video began innocently enough: laughter, music from a small radio, Derek joking about who could build the biggest fire. The teens looked happy, relaxed, normal. But about 9 minutes in, the camera shifted. Someone, Evan, judging by the voice, turned it toward the trees. The firelight flickered over dark bark and pine needles, and then, just past the edge of the frame, a tall, thin figure stood motionless, half hidden by the branches. It didn't move, didn't flinch at the light, just stood there watching them. In the footage, Lily's voice can be heard whispering, "Evan, stop filming, please." A few seconds later, Derek asks, "Is it still there?" Then Evan's hand covers the lens for a moment, and when he removes it, the fire is out. The screen shows only blackness and the faint sound of someone breathing too fast, too close to the microphone. Then a voice, low, almost a growl, says, "It found us again." The picture jerks, flashes of white light streak across the tape, and then static fills the screen. For almost a full minute, the tape plays nothing but that static hiss. Yet if you listen closely, really closely, you can still hear something beneath it. 3 faint, overlapping voices whispering from somewhere deep in the forest. The footage changed everything, and nothing. Detectives reopened the case with renewed urgency, combing every inch of Silver Creek and the surrounding mountains. But the forest had reclaimed its secrets. No remains were ever found, no new evidence surfaced. Experts tried to analyze the shadow in the footage. Some claimed it was a trick of the light, others said it had depth, form, intent. A few even argued the figure wasn't standing behind the trees at all. It was between them, like it didn't quite belong in this world. In 2011, a survey team using thermal drones to map the forest caught something odd on their scanners. A heat signature, roughly human-sized, lingering near the same collapsed cabin where the camera was found. Rangers hiked in within the hour. When they arrived, the cabin was empty except for 3 sets of fresh footprints pressed deep into the damp earth. Each was barefoot. Each matched the shoe sizes of Evan, Lily, and Derek. The prints led toward the tree line, and vanished after 50 feet, as if their owners had simply faded into the air. Today, hikers still report hearing voices around Silver Creek after dark, laughter, the crackle of a campfire, even the faint sound of an old camcorder whirring in the distance. Locals say if you listen long enough, you can hear the same whispered line caught on that tape. "It found us again. And no one stays after sunset. Not anymore." If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Most importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon so the next secret finds you first.